Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Gaming Daddy channel. Today I'm going to be talking about some sort of a specific and in a sense technical aspect of gameplay strategy in the Division 2, and this is basically a PvE strategy that we use. Now, I don't know how PvP players use some of these strategies, but hey, that's a whole different territory. But today we're going to be looking at crowd control. And this is something that the Division 1 basically highlighted a lot of. I mean, we had some really good sources of crowd control when it came to the Division 1, the very first game. We had the shock turret, which was spammed and abused in PvP, and then the developers nerfed it on that front. And we also had the flame turret. These two things provided a lot of crowd control in the sense that when you had enemies rushing you, say shotgunners, maybe hunters or whatever kind of enemy archetypes, these things provided a way for them to be able to stay still. But guess what? In the Division 2, these systems have actually been exponentially amplified in the sense that there are so many more ways for you to be able to use crowd control elements in the Division 2. Now, the flame turret, I must admit, it just got stupid nerfed like crazy. I don't know why they decided to go in the direction that they went. The one from Division 1 auto-targeted and had a longer lifespan, whereas the one in Division 2 basically, is useless. Like nobody really uses it. But nonetheless, it doesn't mean that we don't have some really good aspects of them. So today I'll be talking about a few of them, and we'll be talking about different scenarios whether you can use them and how they can help you complete your clears faster. I think that's one of the major things. It's the speed of completing runs, because speed in completing runs means exponentially more loot gains, exponentially much more effective gameplay, and that's what you want when you get to end game. You want to be able to burst through the content with as much drive as possible. So let's look at some of them and let's talk about kind of their uses. So I love running this build. It's an Eclipse Protocol build, very powerful build, good on status effects. And I would tell you that, one of the really interesting things about crowd control is you can use it to damage, dilapidate the enemies, or in a sense, hold them in place or whatever it is. So you can use your skills. The shock trap is one of them, which basically shocks the enemy and basically keeps them in place and puts them under a shock status effect. So this is another really cool thing. It's a nice way for you to be able to keep the enemy still, and then maybe your DPS players can burst them. I think one thing about team play is, coordination is a big deal. If you go into a team and you see that there are builds that actually complement a build of yours that you're probably not running, say maybe you're running with a skill build and you've always had this nice, beautiful DPS build with Providence, all the items roll, and you see somebody running a shock trap or somebody running perhaps, say, a chem launcher mortar, I would say the mortar variation or variant. This is probably an opportunity for you to be able to kind of, get that build out, because the Riot foam basically ensnares the enemy. And if it's a well done one, it will keep them in place for a long time so that you can actually burst them down. This is basically the idea behind it. Other chem launcher variants like the fire starter also basically lights the enemies in flames, but causing them to scatter nonetheless. So it's a crowd control mechanism in terms of scattering the enemies and not letting them concentrate to deal damage either from a distance or from a close area. So let me explain. Say you're playing the legendary missions District Union Arena, or you're playing Roosevelt Island, and there are a few waves where you have rushers in those two missions, shotgunners that run at you. And usually when they're running, they run at you by actually releasing their drones. So if you know where their spawn points is, you can throw something like this out there and it can scatter them, causing them to not, activate their drones, and then eventually, getting to the point where their drones eventually get destroyed. That's one way to be able to organize that crowd control. Another way that you can do that, and this is another really interesting thing about knowing your enemy, is you can also use the jammer pulse. This is, in fact, in my opinion, a very effective strategy, because with the chem launcher, you can miss your targets. They can jump away from the flames and still activate the drones. They can activate the drones before the puff of smoke even gets to them, and you still get damaged by them. is by using this. This is the Jammer Pulse, and this basically disrupts, all electronic proxies that the enemy has. If you have a very good one, if it's all maxed out, or even, somebody on your team is running, say max, I would say they're running this build that helps your teammates to be able to get overcharge. An overcharge variant is actually pretty good. Also, this is, in my opinion, a very, very effective strategy when you're maybe running into, say, drones and enemy proxies that are coming at you, say, even the Warhounds. You guys know those. They are usually very, very challenging to deal with in Roosevelt Island at the back end or even in the front end of the mission. And you can use those to basically, stun them or disrupt them, temporarily. And that way you can burst them down. Other measures are knowing weak points that also work too. Say like those drones in Roosevelt Island. I wish I had a clip for you guys. I might have a clip here. You can actually shoot them and destroy their wheels and then keep them stationary. They're usually very susceptible to those kinds of hits. And so that's another way that you can basically control for them actually not disrupting you. I have a clip here from Roosevelt Island. I don't know how far we got on this mission, but you generally see that these measures, basically help your team to be able to do some really cool stuff. It also scatters the team, scatters the bad guys, and, they can't concentrate fire on you, and, you can basically do whatever you want. You have a lot more time on your hands if you take that approach when you're actually playing, missions like this. Now, another really interesting aspect of crowd control is you don't necessarily need crowd control skills to achieve crowd control, or you don't necessarily have to use your skills just for crowd control. Sometimes they can overlap. But there's a skill that, a skill variant here in the turret that, if I had to take a trash flame turret to gain this artillery turret, I would take the artillery turret anytime, any day, because it is by far, I would say exponentially better than the flame turret. Even if the flame turret was as good as the Division 1, it's still a proxy that's stationary in a sense. Whereas, even though the artillery turret is stationary, its job is a damage dealer and also a crowd disruptor more than anything. Like when enemy NPCs, are in your range or in the area of effect of, your artillery turret, they constantly are in a state of diving. I mean, they just become Olympic divers. Now, it's a little frustrating. I get it, that, these enemy NPCs don't stay still enough so that you can damage them. But hey, I mean, the game would be boring if they all stood there like pawns. One of the things that makes it really interesting is, you're able to get, your damage off and, destroy them and, beat them up, damage them. But they are constantly moving around, which is also really nice and effective, because what that means is they're not able to also carry out, the full-fledged of their attacks. These enemy AIs, I have to commend the AI team for Division 2, man. Forget what anybody says. This AI is brilliant. The way it's been designed, and if you even go pick up a book on designing video game AI, you're going to figure out how very challenging it is, because there's so many things you have to consider. So hours and hours of testing every single parameter has basically birthed, this game, a very intelligent AI, more intelligent, in my opinion, than Destiny, Warframe, Borderlands. Bring the enemy AI from any looter shooter that you want. We'll juxtapose it with the behavior of the Division 2's AI and the different factions, and they will all fall flat. This is basically my recommendation. And I've played all these games that I've just mentioned. And yes, the AI, sure, they're okay, but nothing close to what we see in the Division. So when you think about these crowd control measures and you think about what they achieve for your team in terms of speed, success, and missions, I definitely think that they're actually worth, implementing or employing, when you're playing your game. Now, the Firefly has been nerfed. It used to be one of the really nice ones that will basically, I think the Blinder was a very good one to use in Legendary, and it was beloved by people who enjoy playing gunplay, in their approach of, beating missions and stuff. So, you'd have this one guy, the person will have, their blinder, or maybe a few guys, and their blinder will be basically well maxed out, getting all the skill tiers that are needed, or all the status effects that you need on your gear. And once you activated, once you activated your blinder and you hit a target with it, man, it just really flowed. The enemy NPCs would be so dilapidated and stunned that you could just basically cheese through a lot of these missions without any problems. But over the course of time, you know, I guess the developers just saw that we were having too much fun and they decided to, in quote, balance it out. That's one thing that makes me laugh. Whenever we have balance in PvE, it's a nerf. That's all we get. We don't really get balance in that sense. We can't have too much fun. But this basically blinds the enemy, you know, puts him in a status effect. And I think Blinder, you know, right now might still be viable if you build it very well. I see, you know, some people still run Blinder and, you know, they're probably just trying to blind one enemy. And to me, that's not effective. If you're going to blind, I would say go for a Vow Mask and apply that status effect on multiple enemy NPCs. And, you know, another thing too is you have to also have a complementary aspect of it. So what do I mean by the complementary aspect of it? Well, I'm glad you asked. So I've seen that the Riot foam, you know, is a very good way to run in missions. But if you're running a Riot foam in your team and you notice that the enemies that are being stuck are not being burst down fast enough, then there's one of two problems. Either the team is not getting itself coordinated to be able to deal the needed damage, or the team does not have the needed damage to be able to, you know, leverage your Riot foam as a Riot foam builder. And so that's where the issue is. The Riot foam basically sticks the enemy in place. The enemy does not move. They're just stuck where they are. You know, and, you know, the goal is that everybody else would damage them once they're stuck. But if your team is not doing the job, then I would suggest that as a Riot foam user in a PvE context that you may need to change as well. That's a very interesting dynamic. I was playing a mission yesterday and one of our team members was using a Riot foam and the team didn't have the damage output. I mean, we wiped in like right before the boss in District Union. I have never really, I don't remember, well, I think I may have, but I don't remember wiping in that room. That room is the easiest of all the encounters, but we just didn't have the damage. And the Riot foam, yes, it was keeping the enemies in place, but when you don't have DPS, you really can't take down the enemies fast enough. So I would recommend, in my opinion anyways, that that kind of crowd control move be made to a much more damage dealing / crowd control setup when it comes to it. So crowd control is basically the art of taking on a lot of the content in the game in that aspect. Now, when it comes to the legendary missions, I'm necessarily not, you know, well versed when it comes to, sorry, I meant the raids. I'm not necessarily versed with how crowd control is employed in the raids. Now, I do know for sure that in Operation Dark Hours, a nice jammer pulse will help with the Razorback boss when he's releasing drones. If somebody's got a very good one, they can just go ahead and just nuke all those drones. Really takes away the edge and more of the issues that people are having. So that's one way that it's employed. I don't know if the jammer pulse you know, hits home with Buddy and Lucy. I never really played the raid around the time that, you know, our skills got really much better. So if you know, inform me in the comment section. And also with the Iron Horse raid, I've not played it, so I can't really comment on that. But when it comes to the other missions, when it comes to everything within the map, control points, crowd control is basically very, very good. Another mission that really does, you know, give a lot of problems, I think, is the National Zoo mission, the Stronghold, the Manning National Zoo. This is a very big area, and so a lot of things will fall flat. In that aspect, I think a crowd control measure, and this is me just thinking, if you're going with a 4-man team to play this Manning National Zoo, say you're playing on Heroic or Invaded, is to, you know, employ measures that do some more auto targeting. And I understand our drone has been nerfed as well. That's we got in quote balanced. So maybe Seekers might be your very best bet. And, you know, Seekers don't deal a lot of damage. I wish they dealt more damage, but if I was using an airburst Seeker in this context, I'll most likely be running parameters that allow for my damage to spread, and I can basically target one enemy NPC and they're gonna be going down once they receive that target. I mean, it's for sure. I mean, that's one thing about these. You pick your target, and, you know, it's able to apply that status effect on them, and then that can also spread as well. So these are different ways that you can go with it. You know, you can also employ, look at that spread. This is just from one Seeker mine. Insane. You know, you can also employ measures to be able to get yourself in a position where you're getting overcharge if you're building. That's another thing that I didn't necessarily, you know, pay attention to. I remember shadow gaming. had talked me into getting, using this talent called Future Perfection. And I was always like, nah, man, it's hard to get the kills. But man, once your status effect is dealing enough damage, you can get the last drop on an NPC and you can activate that talent very easily. If that's also challenging for, say you can't really get to, get those overcharge more consistently, then you can use a talent called Energize. Energize basically says using an armor kit grants one skill tier for 15 seconds, and if already at skill tier 6, it grants you Overcharge. It's got a 1 minute cooldown, but that's an eternity. 15 seconds is an eternity for a 1 minute cooldown. If you were to think about it, the BTSU gloves gives your teammates Overcharge, but has a 120-second cooldown. You can also run Energize. If you say, well, my medkits are going to be going really fast, you can run it with Efficient. Efficient is basically going to save you on medkits, and I can tell you that the damage output is also really good. I mean, I was quite surprised that Overcharge basically, compensates for, very strong builds that you can put together. And now, yes, it might be challenging to get the Overcharge procced, but the gains are actually pretty good, because now that medkit, once you proc it, when I ran the combination, I was hoping to get damage, so I would use my medkits. I'll talk about it in a different video, but I just wanted to point that out right now. So let me hear your thoughts in the comment section. There's so many strategies that we use in the game that I'll be happy to discuss some of them in coming videos, but for now, we're gonna stop here. This video is really run very long, and I did not intend for it to do so, but hey, this is the nature of the beast. So thank you very much for tuning in. I appreciate you guys' time and audience. Hopefully we'll talk in another one. Peace out.